Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bunch of Nuts podcast. This is Dan here with Big Cass, and we got Blake on. Welcome to the show, Blake. Always great to have you, buddy.
Excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me on. Looking
Heck
forward to
yeah,
today's show.
heck yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's the annual, Blake's article. I feel like what is this the third year we've done this? I think, which is good.
Third?
I think it might be the third. The time's flying. It's crazy.
Just
It's on the Silver Bulletin. Please go check it out. We'll plug it on Twitter. It's the Silver Bulletin's Conference Championship and College Football Playoff Predictions 2024, 2025. Blake, you go into like super detail every year. Um, Real quick, without kind of giving away spoilers, Blake does have Ohio State as one of his elite teams. That's a shocker. I know, but it, this is why we have Blake on to discuss this. So, me and Cass, we kind of gave you our playoff bracket. You have your playoff bracket. So I figured we just kind of, shoot it, like talk about it. Shoot the, shoot the SHI, the rest.
hey, I mean, I tell you what, this is a great time. We'll always bring Blake on annually. It's starting to be an annual thing because not only did he do one article, but he did two articles. He did the conference championship and college football predictions, and then he did his top 25. Just because the expansion of the college football playoff, I'm assuming, Blake. But it is camp season. Camp is here. Practice starting now. It's here, folks. It's here, boys. It is here.
About time.
It's funny because I feel like I'm ready for camp almost. Like I feel like
I'll be there Friday.
my beach body wasn't ready this year, but like I just grinded in the gym and I feel like I'm ready for like football camp. Like it's absolutely camp time. Starts tomorrow. You'll probably be listening to this Thursday or Friday, whoever's listening. But first day tomorrow. They're gonna practice through Sunday. You can get tickets to go see them.
I'll be there Friday.
Praying no injuries. And my biggest question is who's gonna win the tight end battle. I think it's gonna be G Scott based on how good he is in the game, but who knows?
I mean, that's just something we'll have to break down once that time comes. And I can't wait to be there. According to Austin Ward and Jeremy Birmingham and all them, actually Bobby Carpenter on the podcast, they were talking about the first three practices are acclimation days. So I don't know what I'm going to expect when I walk into the Woody and walk into the practice facility Friday. But Ryan Day did make the comment at Mid-10 Media Days that he would like to start narrowing the reps down on Tuesday when they go back to practice to the quarterbacks. So will it be by the end of the week practice next week when they identify who the starting quarterback is? We'll see, but we'll talk about that next week.
Absolutely. I figured the way we do this, Blake, I would say let's start with our 12 seeds. And it's funny because in your article, the group of 5 contenders, we all have one of them in as our 12 seed at getting into the playoff. We all each have one of them that you selected. We all picked a different one, which I found that funny. I'll go first. No shocker. I think everyone who's listening to the show knows my allegiance this year. I'm going with UTSA. I think I do have the Road to Glory player on there, but I think the defense is pretty solid. They have a couple good backs. I love Kavorian Barnes. He's really fast. They have a stud receiver, and they have Josh McCown's kid. He's pretty good. The only thing is they do play Texas. I believe it's week 2 or 3. But it's a good chance for a good opportunity for them to make some noise outside the Texas game. Their schedule is very winnable. And maybe they pull off the upset. If they pull off the upset on Texas, look out, UTSA's.
Dude, I'm telling you what, if they pull off the upset, all three of us probably won't have a playoff team in the playoffs. So
yeah, well, yeah, that's my 12 seed UTSA. Meet.
I have Boise State. I really like the Broncos this year. They're a very solid team. They play in the Mountain West, which is not as deep this year, I don't think. but I feel like it's one of those years where Boise State hasn't really made a huge splash lately, and with the being the 12-team playoff, I feel like it's their year. It's their year to time to make. And let's be realistically, they probably are the biggest brand out of the non-power five. If you really look at it, and the fact that you could possibly play a playoff game on the blue turf. Obviously, I as them with the 12 seed. I don't think so because my top 12 is very stacked. But I like the Boise State Broncos.
I didn't realize this. I don't know if we've mentioned this, but I didn't realize they got Malachi Nelson.
Oh
That's
yeah,
huge get for them. And he had a whole year develop under Lincoln Riley. Like they're getting top. I believe he was the top quarterback in that class. So that's a huge boost. And he's also nasty in the video game. But Blake, I'll let you go.
No, you guys are good. I mean, Dan, just to go with you with UTSA, and then Cash, you got Boise. Boise was my second pick. UTSA was my third pick when I looked at this, and I saw the Power Five game on both schedules, and I was like, you know what, they're going to have a loss, and then so I've got Liberty in there because I think they're going to go undefeated. The schedules, I mean, high school teams, Conference USA is not, it's not very deep. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
great teams on there. I think it's 134 to 134. I believe their schedule. They made it last year as the into the New Year's Six. I like them to go again. Caden Salter came back, one of the top rushing offenses. The offense is legit. The offensive line, though, that's where they're going to run into trouble playing a Power 5 team or Power 4 team now, excuse me. But Boise's my second team. So the other thing is Liberty goes undefeated again. Weak strength of schedule. Let's say Boise, UTSA are one loss. Last year, it was between undefeated Liberty and two-loss SMU, if I remember correctly. So precedent tells us it's the undefeated team. This year, though, if it's a one-loss team, do you reward Boise or UTSA for playing a tough non-conference game, or do you reward Liberty for the 0 in the loss column?
I mean, Liberty's schedule is you're not lying, Blake. It is a joke. Like literally their two toughest games looking at this. It's either going to be at Appalachian State, September 28th, or it's probably going to be home, second and last week against Western Kentucky. I feel like those are the only two teams that might be able to be competitive with them.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, this is an ugly schedule. Maybe like I actually heard FIU, Florida International, might be a sleeper this year. They play FIU. I can see maybe that being a trap game. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no reason why they shouldn't go undefeated. If they go undefeated, I think they're absolutely in as that 12 seed, especially too after last year when they played Oregon. Then they got that berth and everything basically as the group of 5 team. But it also could come down to fatigue. Like sometimes, like I know, like the voters and stuff, if they get fatigued by a team, they're maybe less inclined to put them in.
Right.
Hey,
It is
I'm
true.
I'm lobbying for September 28th for College Game Day to be at Appalachian State for the Liberty Appalachian State game. I was looking at the college football schedule while you guys were discussing, and really, if you're really looking at it, it's not a very strong week in college football.
Ohio State plays Michigan State.
Yeah, Ohio State plays Michigan State. Michigan plays Minnesota. You got Duke, North Carolina, but if that was basketball, I mean, that would be all good. Virginia Tech, Miami could be a sneaky one, but I'm lobbying for college. Arizona, Utah. So I'm lobbying for them to be at App State for the Liberty game. That I think that is a college game day. Pat McAfee, Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso, Desmond Howard, and them guys to be there. I'm just throwing that out there.
I like it.
It'd be fun.
Moving on, let's go 11 seed. I think this is where it kind of begin. Our playoffs kind of begin to go.
So what we're doing right now are the road teams, the teams that are traveling to the on-campus playoff games.
Yes. So yeah, so my 11 seed, I guess I'll go. I have Louisville. I think this is kind of where they finished around last year too. I feel like they're still going to be very competitive. I really like what Jeff Brom's done with that program. They've added some very good talent in the transfer portal this year. And I do feel like Clemson and Florida State, I don't trust either of them this year because Florida State, they've lost. I don't have Clemson or Florida State even in my playoff. Clemson, I just think they're kind of a mess right now between what has, the past couple of years. They've really have fallen off. It feels like Florida State, they've lost everyone. And ACC, I think, is still going to get 2 teams. So I have Louisville. And then I also, I'll do my other ACC team later, but because I have Louisville in my conference championship too. So I think they will get in. I really like what Braum has done. So that's why I went with Louisville.
I also have a ACC team, and it's my loser of the ACC title game, Notre Dame. I mean, not Notre Dame, Florida State.
Should be Notre Dame.
Should be.
You're not wrong. Yeah, he's not
They
wrong.
won't join a conference, but
yeah. I think Florida State is that team where it all comes down to DJU, and I really do. And I think if he's that much improved, what they're saying, then Florida State's going to be pretty good. They do travel to South. I do believe they travel to South Bend. They play Miami. The potential to play Miami twice, so they could be this 3-loss team that, they were in the ACC title game, and it could be where an SEC team and a Big Ten team are saying, well, hey, Florida State's 3 biggest games, they lost, but I think they would be rewarded for going to the ACC title game over a team that did not make it, that finished like 3rd or 4th in the SEC, or not 4th or 5th in the SEC or 5th in the Big Ten, if that makes sense.
My biggest thing with DJU is we've seen him in the ACC before, and it wasn't pretty. I can't get on him.
Yeah, but I mean,
I know he's improved, but
historically, Clemson, even if you look back at Sunshine, my wife calls him Sunshine, but Trevor Lawrence, he degressed. All the quarterbacks at Clemson have degressed, except for Deshaun Watson. Obviously, it's so weird. Like, because now I think, even in the NFL, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is good, but I don't think he's worth the money he's getting paid for. But outside of Deshaun Watson, all their quarterbacks have really degressed. So at Clemson, so it's gonna be interesting to see, because I thought he was really good at Oregon State. So I still like the Noles because I really like Mike Norvell as a head coach.
I like it.
Yeah, Norvell does a great job.
Blake, who you got?
I've got Penn State sitting at 11. Their schedule's really easy outside of hosting Ohio State. Then they have a road game at USC. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think they go to Wisconsin too. I know they play Wisconsin. I just can't remember where the game is.
I believe
but
so.
I think Penn State loses to Ohio State and James Franklin loses another game, but they still make the playoffs. So I'm going to put them at the 11th seed.
I like that you have Penn State. I think we all have Penn State in, just different areas, slightly different seeds. But I think we're all in agreement that I feel like Penn State's floor is 9-3. Their ceiling is like 11-1.
So
it's not
built to make the playoff every single year with James Franklin. Now, James Franklin might be the college football version of Chris Holtman. That's a different story. And I don't know if he's going to do anything in the playoff, but they're going to get to the playoff.
Yeah, Penn State's one of those teams that, if you really look at the college football playoff era, if there was a 12-team playoff, Penn State's one of those teams that probably only missed it 1 or 2 years, if that. They've always been consistently good. So running down their schedule, I will say going to West Virginia week 1 will be tough. And then at Wisconsin will be tough. And then hosting Ohio State, and then going to USC. I have them only with 1 loss. Well, I have them with 2 losses, and both to Ohio State.
It's certainly possible. That's the one thing I wanted to bring up with Penn State is they could easily crash the Big Ten championship game this year.
I have them in the Big Ten
championship.
Good,
because they're that good, but because their schedule's that weak, and then Ohio State has a handful of marquee games. Oregon has to play some tough games, and then Michigan, they have Texas in the non-conference. That doesn't count against the Big Ten schedule, but even Michigan's Big Ten schedule is pretty difficult too.
Yeah.
So Penn State definitely got the short end of the stick in terms of big games, but it's going to bode well for them in terms of a playoff push, because I don't really see a way they don't make the playoff unless they really blow it.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State's a very interesting team, and Blake and I have had many conversations off air about this. Because I have a whole breakdown what I think is going to happen, but and I'll say that once we give this predictions.
Yeah.
Let's move on to 10. Number 10, I got the Utah Utes in there. I have them. They don't win the Big 12, but they're very competitive. I think they like similar to Penn State. They are always built for like this type of playoff. I really like I really like their roster this year though because they brought in Dorian Singer, the receiver. He had over 1,000 yards at Arizona. Didn't have a great year last year at USC, but he is I feel like a much needed weapon for that offense. Micah Bernard has been pretty exciting at running back, and then they get their leader back, Cam Rising. So and obviously they have a great head coach. I think the defense will give them plenty of effort. I think they'll be one of the best defenses in that conference. So I feel like 10 is a perfect spot for them, and then they will be a threat in the playoff too to make a run. They could be they're this is a team that could beat anyone. They could also lose to anyone, but they could definitely beat anyone.
I have Ole Miss Rebels. I think they're going to be really, really good and maybe contend for an SEC championship game. Them and Alabama, but I do have 4 teams in the SEC getting in, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, "Well, why you do that?" It's just the SEC is pretty deep. You could have gone anywhere with this, but Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, who is a Heisman candidate, they're going to be really good. It's just all about who they beat, when their schedule, and when their schedule is can they get over that hump? Lane Kiffin has never gotten over that hump anywhere he's gone, and I just don't think they'll get over that hump into the regular season. But I do think they're a playoff team.
I agree.
I like almost 2, Kess, and you'll see that as we get on in the bracket pick here. I've got Notre Dame sitting at 10. I think Marcus Freeman's done a really good job. That defense is going to be one of the best in the country. It'll end up probably being top 10, maybe even top 5. Notre Dame's defense is really good. The schedule does them a couple favors. They do have Florida State and USC on there. Both of those teams, though, they don't scare you as much as they would have last year. Obviously USC's defense has not been as good, but Caleb Williams, he's an X factor. Obviously, he's gone now, but I like Notre Dame to make the playoff this year.
In your article, you did have Riley Leonard as a dark horse Heisman.
Yeah.
You want to kind of expand on that a little bit? Because I don't know if I'm sold on him. I watch a lot of Duke games. I don't know.
Duke was on TV a lot last year too.
He's a warrior, but I don't know if he puts up a lot of points. I don't know. I wasn't sold on him, and when he was kind of like being debated, floated as the Ohio State guy, I was cringing because I was like, no, please. So
Yeah.
I guess why do you think he's a Heisman candidate? I guess.
So I'll pose the question this way, and then I'm going to answer it myself. Who are the Heisman contenders that can run away with it this year? I think it's pretty open. So I was looking at, you have your top guys, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, you have those guys. What quarterbacks are in good situations? Riley Leonard's in a good situation at Notre Dame. They're going to win.
Yeah.
And then, so you look at that. Notre Dame runs a pro-style offense. He likes to run the football too. Notre Dame plays physical. Let's get some rushing touchdowns in there. He's not going to be Lamar Jackson, so don't hear me too much when I say this, but that style of offense is where it'll be Lamar Jackson-esque, not the flash, but just that style where he's going to run the football more than he throws for it. And he's going to be an X factor in those games for Notre Dame. He'll be the reason why they win. We saw him do it last year with Duke. He put himself on the map.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bigger name quarterback. He's not a biggest, but I think if Notre Dame puts together an 11-1 season, possibly 12-0, I think that's a stretch. He's going to have to at least be in a conversation because how else would they get there without him?
Yeah, no, I mean you're not wrong. I feel like he might not put up the godly stats. I guess that's my only
Right
argument against him because he didn't really do it at Duke. He had
Estime's not there anymore,
solid.
is
he? What Cass?
he? Estime's not there. The running back, big
Oh,
running
he's
back.
the Denver Bronco right now. So yeah,
Riley Leonard's like one of those older LeBrons where the offense is going to run through him no matter what, on the ground and through the air.
You might have just sold me on him now. Now I'm like questioning myself. Maybe I was too hard on him.
But it's a dark horse. It's not like, oh, I think you can win it. Like, okay, if Notre Dame puts up good numbers, he's going to be around.
Yeah, he'll be around.
Number 9. My number 9 is Penn State. Literally the same argument we just had a
Yeah.
couple picks ago. I just think the Big Ten will get a little more respect. And they'll get I have actually them as my 3rd team from the Big Ten. So they'll be at 9. But I think they'll still be like, I feel like Penn State with 2 losses, they're always going to be a top, even with 2 losses, they'll be a top 10 team coming at the end of the year. So that's why I had them there.
So I have Oregon at number 9. And here's the reason why, because I don't trust, and it's not that I don't think Dylan Gabriel's that good is good. I mean, isn't bad. I mean, is bad. It's not that I think Dylan Gabriel's bad, if that makes sense. I just don't trust a quarterback that transfers 3 times. And really, outside of UCF, he didn't win he beat Texas at Oklahoma, but he didn't really win a lot of big games at Oklahoma. He's a good quarterback, great quarterback. But Dan Lanning hasn't won a big game. And I think they lose to Ohio State, and I think they go to the big house and lose to Michigan. I think they'll have 2 losses, but they are in that big, they'll get that highest road team record, because when you find out who my number 8 team is, you'll understand why I put Oregon at number 9 instead of at number 8. So it's not that I think they're a bad team. Dan Lanning has yet to prove to win a big game. That's just me. And
you're not wrong at all.
Yeah. Man, that's a tough one to follow there, Cass. I've got Alabama at 9. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to do a good job there this year, and I think Alabama's going to be better than people think. The other thing I want to say too, Dan, this is to your point. You said Penn State was your 3rd Big Ten team in the playoff.
Yeah.
I think any Big Ten or SEC team with 2 losses or fewer will be in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, unless
you're pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, some conference, some other conferences would have to have some crazy stuff happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got Alabama sitting there at 9.
I like it. At number 8, I have, and this is kind of like it's kind of where I really kind of go off the rails. I have Tennessee at 8. I just think this is like this is the deepest team they've had in a while. We've mentioned this weeks ago. We kind of went through Tennessee's schedule, and then of course, Menace to Sports did it a couple days ago, but we had it first. Like, I broke it down. They have the edge rusher Pierce. Like, he's projected 1st overall pick. Nico is probably the best quarterback they've had, honestly.
$7 million quarterback.
He honestly is probably the best quarterback they've had since
He is.
Dobbs. And everyone knows how much I love Joe Milton. And they have 3 stud receivers. They have a really good back. The defense will be, I think, much better than like the past couple years. So I think this is the year where, and their schedule is not bad at all. Literally the hardest part of their schedule is just Georgia, Bama. Every other game except the NC State game should be a win. The NC State game is I feel like that's the must-win game. I believe that's week 1 or 2. But then they also I believe they get Bama at home too. So they could do that. I like them right smack in the middle of Tennessee.
Hey, keep their goalposts safe when they play Bama.
Yeah.
This is true.
You have Penn State headed to Neyland Stadium to take on the Vols for a playoff game.
I do, and that would be
a game.
That would be so much fun.
I have the Oregon Ducks traveling to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions.
That will also be a fun game, but they won't fight out that.
Because here's why. Penn State's only 2 losses are coming to the Buckeyes. I have Penn State in the title game against the Buckeyes, but their only loss in the regular season is to the Buckeyes.
And that would make sense. I would hope they would reward them for going to the conference championship, even if they get a loss.
That's where I had it, because I could have flipped the coin. Like, look, Autzen Stadium or Happy Valley, one of those 2 teams are going to host. I gave to Happy Valley, Penn State hosting the Ducks, because, like I said, I think Oregon will be the highest. Look,
And also, if you lost to the same team twice, it's literally. I feel like it's not one. It's more. It's
Right.
one loss because you
Especially
you
if one of
lost,
them was at
lost
home.
for 120 minutes.
And both of them are a home and neutral site. Like,
Yeah.
and if you look at it, Oregon is the best on the road team, which, you could flip a coin. And a lot of this too is about seeding and what I think the committee will do for ratings. And I think this game will be hell of a ratings.
I agree.
No, 100%. That was one of the things I wanted to bring up because now we're starting to get into the who loses the conference championship games into that part of the seeding because I have the loser of the ACC championship game as my 8 seed. That's Miami. But what does the committee do with the loser of those championship games? Let's just say hypothetically, Cass, that Oregon's ranked ahead of Penn State going into that week. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Penn State's ranked ahead of Oregon going into that week. They lose, like you said. Do they drop behind Oregon or they just stay where they are above them? How do you handle that? And let's just say, play this out. Ohio State has whatever record they have, undefeated or 11-1. You said Penn State's 11-1. Why do you even need to play that game? Both teams are in the playoff. Why don't you lower that to one of the other teams and just do like a playing game to the playoff? I heard, I think it was Joel Klatt or Josh Pate. One of the two of them talked about that. And I thought that was a really interesting concept because those teams are already in the playoff. Why play that game to give another one of those teams a loss and an extra game? Just move that down to like your fourth and fifth best team and make it a playing game for an 11 seed or something like that.
Well, you look at it this way. I think it was Josh Pate that said that you're more beneficial to not get to the conference championship game and just go on the road and play a playoff game. I think
yeah, I could see. I know what you're saying.
That's fair
because
too.
think about it.
Yeah.
You're not playing in the conference championship game. You win the conference, you get a first round bye. You lose, you either host the team that's been resting or you go on the road against the team that's resting. Hence Florida State, my Florida State, losing to Miami and headed to South Bend for a second time.
I feel like it's not a bad strategy too, because it's you look at
That is
kind
true.
of in the 4-team playoff, the one team that kind of did that was Ohio State when they lost to Michigan and they
Right.
still got in as the 4 seed and they didn't beat Georgia, but they were, I mean,
If
were there.
it was the 12-team playoff and they were playing Georgia the next week after Georgia played Alabama, Ohio State wins that game.
Yeah.
That's a fair point, Cass. That is a fair point. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But to just expand on Miami real quick, I love what that addition of Cam Ward. I think he's going to be super dynamic. I'll let Dan talk more about Miami when we get there. But I really like what Cam Ward's going to do for Miami this year in that offense. Cristobal has solid offensive line play there. They have enough weapons. If it's not this year, I don't know when it's going to be for Miami with Cam Ward.
You have Alabama headed to South Beach to take on Miami. Oh,
actually, Cass, it's more so Miami's headed to South Beach to take on Alabama because Miami fans don't travel to the games.
yeah, but I mean,
it's
ratings. All three of our, if you look at it, all three of our 8-9 matchups, ratings galore.
Yeah,
man.
I gotta say this about Miami. It's so I'd actually like I wanted to go to the University of Miami when I was in high school, and until I went down there, and I went down there, and it doesn't hit you how far the stadium is. It's like 40 minutes away, dude. It's like through like it's the equivalent. I'm trying to like put it in like Columbus terms. It's like the campus is in like Plain City, and the stadium's like nationwide. It's like it's a mob. So yeah, no, that's so true though. Like they are traveling to South Beach to play Bama. That's so funny.
Yep.
Speaking of Bama though, I do have Bama at 7. I mean, they're gonna take a step back, but it's Bama. Like they're still gonna be Bama could take a step back. Yeah,
I have Bama at 7 too. So go ahead,
infrastructure.
Yeah, they still have the recruits. They still have the quarterback, and DeBoer has been successful at every level he's been at. I think 7 is a perfectly almost. I feel like it's almost conservative to put.
I have it. I have them there too. Like I have them hosting Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels, and you have them hosting the Utes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that would be a fun one. And like just watching like Utah go into Tuscaloosa, that's like a game that like everyone's going to tune into. And that's a game though that like Utah could win for some reason. They're like the giant killer.
Hence, I think Ole Miss Ole Miss will be the upset in the playoffs.
Well, speaking of the lane train, they just so happen to be my 7 seed hosting Notre Dame.
Okay.
I think Ole Miss could also get to the SEC championship game based on schedule too, because Georgia has tough road games and Texas doesn't have the easiest road, but it is easier than Georgia's.
Yeah.
Alabama also has it tough because they do play Georgia too. So Ole Miss, if they're 11-1, they could easily find themselves in Atlanta. And then Georgia has a lot of work to do to get to Atlanta. They could do it, but they have the toughest road to get there, but they have the best team to do it.
Right.
My biggest thing was Ole Miss is how did like if they weren't a great team last year with Quinshon Judkins, why is everyone hyping them up this year? I'm not saying they're going to be not competitive. I don't see them being as good as everyone is saying. I don't understand how they improved, I guess is my question.
Well, I'll say this, Dan, too. They added some guys in the transfer portal, and Jackson Dart being a veteran quarterback being back, I think that helps them. But Ole Miss and Penn State, their record is going to be an indicator of them being better than they actually are because of the schedule that they play. That's my logic.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you see the committee looking at Penn State and Ole Miss, looking at last year's Peach Bowl?
It's like the Spider-Man meme looking at those two teams. But yeah, it's possible. But they say they don't look back. But I mean, recency bias. You've seen it.
Yep.
No, that makes sense.
Both teams have the same quarterback.
This is
and
true.
both teams basically, because there was a lot of transfer portal guys because Quinshon Judkins didn't play against Penn State, I don't think. So
who we got at 6?
I got Oregon at 6. They're going to lose the Big Ten championship. They will have 2 losses.
I thought you had Iowa playing in Ohio State.
So, all right, I thought about this today. All right, I take that back. Or I was gonna.
Dan made an addendum,
and like I was trying to think about this logically. It's like Iowa's gonna go to the Big Ten championship, but they're gonna lose to Iowa State and like someone else.
Oh, okay,
like, they will mess up their non-conference and not make the playoff, but like they will somehow get into the Big Ten championship.
It makes sense.
It's very possible, Dan. Too. That's 100%.
That's very possible.
So that because they always do that, like they will go like 8-4, but they'll be like they'll be like have 1 loss in the Big Ten. It will make
they'll be 8-1 in the Big Ten.
Right. Yeah.
It'll make no sense.
They'll lose like North Dakota State.
Exactly. So I have Oregon. I guess they'll have 1 loss. Then I guess the way they'll lose to Ohio State, and then somehow the Iowa tiebreaker or something. I don't know. Just somehow I will get in over, and then like they will be like the 6th seed. That's my logic.
I mean, Oregon could have 2 losses and still be the 6th seed.
Yeah, it's written, man. It's just...
right. My 6th seed team is Notre Dame. I feel like they're going to lose to Florida State or USC, but regardless, I think they could be undefeated and have that 6th seed because of who my number 5 seed is. I think they're going to use it as a bias and like use like strength of schedule in this and kind of like, build who they want to build. But I have them hosting the Knowles in South Bend. I'm going to retract my statement of my upset, by the way.
So you don't have who winning that?
I don't have Ole Miss beating Alabama. I think my only upset would be Oregon over Penn State.
I find that hard. Blake, you got a minute for the 6 seeds, and then it kicks us off to do another stream because I refuse to give Zoom a dime. You're up.
Hey, fair enough. So my first 2-loss team my highest ranked 2-loss team, I should say. No, you know what? Yeah, that is what I'm going to say. Texas is going to be my 6th seed, the SEC number 2. They lose in the SEC championship game to a team you'll find out in just a few minutes, but you could all assume that it's Georgia because we've already talked about this. But Texas, I think they be at the 6th seed, falling behind a Big Ten team and the top 4 seeds. They will host Penn State and they will beat Penn State.
I like it.
5 seed, gentlemen. So my 5 seed, and I feel like this one makes sense. I have, where are they? Texas. Because I have it because they will be the SEC runner-up. And I feel like there's no way that the SEC runner-up isn't the 5 seed. I feel like that's just how this works. So they're absolutely going to be the 5 seed.
And you play UTSA, Texas versus Texas. I like it.
What is it?
My 5 seed is the Georgia
Part 2.
Bulldogs. I think they are the SEC runner-up, but I will say this, and I've said this in the past: the winner of the first matchup will lose the title game. So I have Georgia beating Texas early, but I also have Texas beating Georgia in the SEC title game.
That is a good take, Cass. The only way the SEC runner-up is not the 5 seed is if the Big Ten runner-up gets its first loss in the Big Ten championship game.
Right.
Oregon will be number 5, and that scenario will take place. So I understand the Dylan Gabriel argument. I do get it. I just think they have a lot of good pieces. Ohio State going to Autzen might be a little bit tricky. The Buckeyes can win that game. I'm just going to slightly nod. Here we are at the end of July to Oregon at home, but the Buckeyes will get the better of them in the Big Ten championship game. So Oregon gets its first loss and goes to 5, but could also see Oregon walking in there and getting their second loss too. But for right now, give me Oregon at 5.
So I've already kind of said who's going to win my matchups. Who wins your guys' matchups in the quarterfinals?
All right.
Or no, first round.
In the first round. Okay. Sorry. Utah beats, well, okay. Let me start with, I guess, the 12 seed on. Texas beats UTSA. I have Tennessee over Penn State, Utah over Bama, Oregon over Louisville.
So you have the higher seeds winning.
Except Utah. Utah pulls the upset.
Oh, okay. So Utah will end up going probably to the Rose Bowl to play Ohio State, right?
No.
Oh, wait, you don't have Ohio State as your 1 seed?
No, I do.
Oh, okay.
They will play the 2 seed, Utah, who I haven't given my 2 seed yet.
No, the lower seed will play the higher seed in the playoffs. Always.
Yeah, wherever they go then. They're the 10 seed, so wherever slot them in.
To play, I would say Ohio. It would probably be Ohio State. Am I correct, Blake? That's how it's going to go.
Run this back to me one time, Cass,
because I
thought the 7-10 would play the 2 seed afterward.
I have the
I thought whoever the lowest seed, like the NCAA.
I don't think they reseed it.
They don't reseed it.
I don't believe so.
The bracket in the graph, and it's leading to the Cotton Bowl. So I'm like, okay, they're going to the Cotton.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
I'm going off of the graph.
So they're not doing it like the NFL playoffs where the lower seed. Okay, I got it.
I don't believe so. I think it's bracket style where you have the 8-9 matchup goes to the 1 seed. The 5-12 goes to the 4, 7-10 goes to the 2, 6-11 goes to the 3.
I'm gonna be honest, boys. It's a learning curve. Like
it is a learning curve.
We're gonna have to adjust. Like that's a great
Lots
question.
Lots of audibles.
Someone definitely knows this. We're just gonna find out and go with it. So
what? So if the semifinals are the Cotton and Orange, what are the 4? The Fiesta, Rose, Sugar, and
they'll be the quarterfinals.
Peach Bowl.
They'll be the quarterfinals.
What, the Rose, Peach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the Orange Bowl and Cotton are the semifinals. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's in your article.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'll refer to the chart.
Okay. All right, got it.
Quarterfinal Fiesta, Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar, and then the
Yes.
settings are Orange, Cotton. Natty is
you-
where's the Natty?
It's in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Atlanta.
So you have Tennessee playing Ohio State, Texas playing Kansas, Oregon versus Miami, and Utah versus Georgia. Be interesting to see where they play those games too. I think Ohio State would end up choosing the Rose Bowl. That's where I think.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how, if they let them choose the venue, or
I bet they do because the SEC would be like, we had
yeah,
to travel to
the SEC
South
wants the
Bend.
sugar.
We had to travel to Happy Valley. Let us choose the quarterfinals.
No, you're absolutely right though, Cass.
I have Oregon. I think they would go on to play Ohio State. I have Georgia playing Miami. I have Notre Dame versus Utah, which could be the most boring playoff game in history of playoffs.
No, wait, Notre Dame versus Utah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's gonna be like 13,
Alabama versus
13,
Texas.
12.
So,
Snoozer.
hey, so Alabama, I mean, Notre Dame versus Utah is definitely going to be on TNT, right?
May as well have Shaq call it from the booth. Like,
Oh, I can't believe I did. I mean, that is going to be a boring game, but hey, it actually could be excited. It'd probably be the lowest scoring game, but I
old
have,
school college football.
yeah, Notre Dame versus Utah. I'm going to say the Fiesta. Just throw them out in the Fiesta Bowl out in Arizona. I'm going Alabama, Texas, in New Orleans, Oregon, Ohio State in Pasadena, and then Atlanta will, unfortunately for the Miami Hurricanes, they'll have to go to Atlanta to play Georgia in the Peach Bowl.
Solid.
I like it.
So,
I like all of ours, honestly.
yeah. So I will go start with the 5-12 game. I've got Oregon beating Liberty, though. They will play Utah. Then I have Texas beating Penn State. They'll play Florida State. I have Ole Miss beating Notre Dame. They will play Georgia. Then I have Alabama over Miami to play Ohio State.
Oregon,
So,
Utah in the Rose Bowl.
Yep. And then
Ohio
I've got
State.
Ohio State, Bama in the Sugar Bowl.
Oh,
Hello,
yeah.
2014. How are you? And then
I love
Georgia,
that.
Ole Miss will play in the Peach Bowl. Georgia's going to have a lot of games in Atlanta this year, just so we can all get this out of the way. I think they'll have, I don't know, they might have 4 games in Atlanta this year.
That's a little
And
ridiculous.
then, yeah,
It is.
I hate how the SEC has kind of made that little cottage industry where like they've made Atlanta like their home base, and it's actually we don't discuss this. Why did like that's like the equivalent of like the Big Ten using Indianapolis for everything, but we don't.
Well, which the
they
game
should.
Big
We
Ten
should.
championship is going to
Yeah.
be going to Minneapolis. It's going to go to Minnesota in a couple years.
That's fine.
No,
I'm cool with that.
I'm waiting for it to go to Vegas.
that would not be good.
It's going to happen.
Could be. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I just can't. Vegas isn't Big Ten weather. It's not sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Soldier Field.
4th seed. So we all got our picks. So this is now
Yep.
we're doing the top 1 through 4s, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
4 seed. Buckle up. I've been like you guys been talking. I've been kind of sitting here silently. This team in a conference where kind of wide open this year. They return all their starting receivers, starting back, starting quarterback, tight end. They have arguably the best corner in the conference. They won a bowl game last year, and their program has really turned around. Give me winning the Big 12, the Kansas Jayhawks. Rock Chalk.
That's my dynasty team right now.
Well, they're fantastic. And they're going to do big things. And I'm a believer in this program has been building to it. 2 years ago when they were 6-0, everyone was going nuts. Last year they had a great year too. This team has the quarterback too. And Daniels was hurt last year for the most part. So They get him back and he's healthy. They have Devin Neal stud. What we went over this like I don't know, another show. Their schedule's not that bad. They're gonna do this. They're winning the Big 12.
I love Dan's.
And
I
you
love
guys
Dan's
forget, you guys
quarterfinals.
forget. You guys forget to. Well, I don't think you guys forget, but they could have like 3 or 4 losses if they just win the Big 12. They will get the lowest 1 through 4 seeds. Correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that like they don't have to be perfect and undefeated. They're gonna win the Big 12, and that's why they're my 4th seed.
Just imagine Kansas versus Texas in the Sugar Bowl, because isn't that? I know there's not really an alliance there, but I'm looking at these matchups of yours that you have. You have Tennessee playing Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
I still think Ohio State will choose the Rose Bowl. I think Ohio State loves playing out there, playing in Pasadena. And Alabama and Georgia will end up in Atlanta.
100%.
Oh no, you have Utah. You have Utah playing
Utah.
Georgia.
I'll still end up in Atlanta.
Yeah, it'll be in Atlanta. And then Oregon, Miami will be
Orange.
that'll be the
it'll be
Peach Bowl.
Peach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, Georgia.
New Orleans.
It'll be in
you got the Sugar Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl still.
Fiesta Bowl. Yeah, Miami and Oregon is going to be in the
Fiesta.
Fiesta Bowl.
That's Fiesta all written all over it for sure.
And then Kansas, Texas in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, that would be that would be a great Sugar Bowl. Oh my God.
I will tell you, I don't know how good the ratings will be for Kansas, Texas, or Miami, Oregon, but the games will be exciting. I ain't gonna lie. Them games will. You're talking Mario Cristobal versus Dan Lanning, his old team, and then you got Kansas, Jalen Daniels. These quarterfinal games are really fun for Dan.
It's not gonna happen, but it's a pipe dream, man.
But obviously, I've kind of revealed my 4 seed. It's Miami. I think they're going to play in the Peach Bowl against Georgia. Yeah.
Miami's. I like
My
them.
4 seed, I've got Utah.
I didn't realize you have Utah this high. I like this pick. I mean, I think at the end of the day, me and you kind of have Utah going. I feel like just as far, just in kind of a different way. I feel I have being more chaotic.
Yeah.
But, why do you have them as a 4 seed? So you think they're going to win the Big 12 like Kansas? I guess.
Yeah, I think they. I do think they win the Big 12.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the brand of football Kyle Whittingham coaches. His teams always had the same identity. Cameron Rising, it feels like he's been in college football for a long time. I think I've gotten 2 degrees since he's gotten into college football. And they play physical. They play disciplined. Texas and Oklahoma are out. So you really have Oklahoma State, Kansas, and Kansas State there atop the Big 12. And I think Utah's schedule is also not bad. But I also think give them a 1 chance. I think they can slow down Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. I think they can beat Kansas State. And then, Dan, maybe you get me with Kansas. Maybe we get a Utah-Kansas Big 12 championship game. Like you said, all they have to do is win it. But I just like their roster makeup the best. I like the coaching staff the best. I like their quarterback the best. The only thing I don't like best about Utah is the running back, but I think their defense can slow down Ollie Gordon enough if that's who they end up playing. So I trust Utah the most of the Big 12 teams. That's why I picked them to win it.
So I have Utah at 3, but they're the only Big 12 team I have. That's
same with me. Only Big 12.
So they just dominate, and basically they're the surefire team.
Yeah, I just think. I mean, I could have switched 3 and 4. I was just looking at the matchups. I think just is what the playoff committee will seed. That's where I was looking at, because I think they want to try to avoid, especially in the early onsets of the playoffs, like the early rounds. I think they want to do conference versus conference the best they can. Maybe, unless they're dying. I mean, I think what we'll try to do is get Big 10 versus SEC to try to prove a point. Hey, this is 2 divisions, but Utah wins the Big 12, and I just think they get the 3 seeds so they can get that matchup, if that makes sense. Because Miami, Georgia, if Miami's as good as all three of us think they can be, Miami, Georgia, or if it's Florida State or, who all your ACC teams are, that's more attractive than Georgia, Utah, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, Cass. I think you have a good point there with Utah getting the 3 seed. The ACC and the Big 12 are fighting for the 3 and the 4 seed. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
And
unless something drastic happens with the Big Ten where they just beat each other up.
yeah, there's not a lot of depth between the two conferences. I leaned Florida State to get the 3 seed because they have that Notre Dame. If they beat Notre Dame, then they have to beat Miami. Do they beat Miami twice? Do they beat Clemson?
You
I think
guys,
Florida State has the opportunity to have more key wins. So I gave Florida State the 3 seed.
do you guys think we might be thinking about this the wrong way? Because I feel like we all three have the Big 12 and the ACC like as a 3 and 4 seeds. Like, what if both of them just have one really good team that just goes like undefeated and they're just 1-2?
Kind of like Washington with the Pac-12 last year.
Yeah, like
It's possible.
could that happen? I don't know. I don't love any other teams, but it could.
Another interesting team, and the only problem is they don't have depth, but Colorado is talented. They just don't have depth. And in college football, 16 games, you're going to need depth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good. That's a great point. That's where Ohio State, they have the deep roster. But like someone mentioned it's like, what is depth? Is depth just you have a bunch of guys that are all not great because not one's a clear starter, or is it, they're all just great or all bad? Like, what does depth mean? It all really kind of depends on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I have my 3 seed now, right?
Yep.
Miami. Anyway, Miami's gonna still be the 3 seed, but after all that, they're gonna be the 3 seed. Cam Ward, though, he's a dog. Like I
wanted him at Ohio State.
Chirping I did too. I wanted him. The video of him chirping Shedeur Sanders, I loved. Like I like Cam. I think Cam Ward just a baller, and he's just about it. They got Fletcher. They got Damian Martinez, the most untalked about transfer portal guy. I feel like he's been so amazing for Oregon State, and he just kind of went to Miami, and I feel like he might honestly be one of the best offseason acquisitions. And in Miami, they have Restrepo, and they have basically their whole receiving core back. And then I just think Cristobal will get the lines figured out.
Right.
And then Jason Taylor coaches them, which is pretty cool. I feel like he can give them some insight. So that's why I have Miami as my 3 seed.
2 seed.
I'll bet lead off for the 2 seed.
What's that?
I'll bet lead off for the 2 seed.
Okay.
I kind of already said it, but I've got Georgia as my 2 seed. Like I said before, SEC, Georgia has the toughest road of the contenders in the SEC, but they have the best team to do it. So give me Georgia to get to the SEC championship game, win it, and lock in that 2 seed, which then leaves the obvious choice there at number 1, which we'll get to in a minute.
I have Texas. Again, like I said, the winner of the regular season game will lose the SEC title game. I just think Georgia wins first. But I might be the only one that don't have Georgia versus Ohio State in the national championship just because of the seedings.
I have Georgia as my 2 seed, just excuse me, just because I just don't think this is the best Georgia team they've had. I feel like Carson Beck. I'm not a believer in Carson Beck. I'll believe it like if he does it this year without Bowers and Ladd McConkey, I'll be very impressed. I don't think he's that good. I think it's all hype. But they'll still win the SEC. They'll get the 2 seed, but they might have a loss. And I don't think they're a crazy threat. I think they're beatable. I think they're vulnerable.
I agree, Dan. And that takes me back to the Heisman talk that we had. Like you said, you're not the biggest believer in Carson Beck. Well, look what Carson Beck lost. Look what Quinn Ewers lost. Look at what all these guys lost in this Heisman race. Jalen Milroe at Alabama. I think he should be one of the favorites to do it. But if Alabama loses 3 games, how does he win the Heisman? Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. The Heisman race is pretty wide open in those
Could
places
it be a
because
running back
Carson,
this year?
I could see
Ollie Gordon, yeah.
I could see Milrow doing it similar to the way Jalen Daniels did it. Like
How
they
about
could
Cam Ward?
Cam Ward,
What
absolutely.
about Will Howard or Devin Brown?
See, the thing with the Ohio State players for this year on that offense, there's so many guys that could be in the conversation, but they're all going to get different amount of touches.
Yeah, they're gonna
So it's like they're going to spread the wealth where no one's going to have the world beating stats. Like even Henderson and Judkins, they're going to split carries. They're both going to be outstanding. But if one of them had the lion's share, they'd be in New York, but they're going to split.
What about a
So-
defensive player?
Caleb Downs.
Caleb Downs?
If he plays two ways, he could get there.
If he returns some punts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Will Howard is a dark horse just because
Yep.
if he is the starter, I think he's the dark horse just
He's on my list
because
too.
he can he'll be able to throw the ball to these 5-star wide receivers and he can run the ball.
I just don't know how many yards he's gonna get through the air. That's my apprehension.
Is he a better version of Riley Leonard?
I think so.
It's like the more I watch Will Howard highlights, the more I'm like, but I think he'll be good. I feel like
He's a gamer.
he's gonna be like JT Barrett. That's I think how we're like
JT Barrett was a Heisman candidate.
That's
I-
a good. Okay,
think-
Dan.
That's the closest comp I think I got to him. But here's the thing. I think we're gonna lose a little bit. Then this is kind of going on a tangent with Will Howard. My take is I think we're gonna lose a little accuracy with him compared to McCord and other quarterbacks in the past. But he has the dog. He's a gamer like JT and like JT. We all love JT, but he would have like one or two throws a game that were like, dude, gotta hit it, man. Like,
Yeah.
so that's why I think
Don't forget about Chip Kelly.
yeah, in the rushing numbers too. I feel like he would put up like a JT. He wouldn't put up like 4,000 yards. I could see like 25, 3,000 yards passing, but like, 1,200 yards on the ground and like 10, 12 TDs. I feel like that gets you invited.
Yes.
I think the winner. I think honestly, the winner of the Heisman Trophy winner is going to be Dylan Gabriel because he's going to put up the gaudy stats.
hmm
They're
So-
already starting with his hype because his like dog died or whatever. It was very sad. It was very sad actually. He's like he had to put his puppy down, but they were starting like just like they were putting him all over I think it was like ESPN or Sports Center. So he definitely has the hype train behind him. I think like they're gonna want to know how he responds, and I can definitely see it. I can definitely see him being an early favorite, and I feel like he's almost a lock to go to New York.
Yeah, but I think ultimately Quinn Ewers, if he beats Georgia in an SEC title game, he's going to lock up the Heisman Trophy. I think it's going to come down to Dylan Gabriel and Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
we all have Ohio State number one.
Actually, I had
Spoiler
that
alert.
fourth. No, I'm joking. Yeah, Ohio State for sure.
So I'll go first with this would be the quarterfinals. I have Ohio State beating Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
I've got Ohio State over Alabama.
In the sugar.
Yep.
Quinshon Junkins rushes 85 yards through the South.
I have Ohio State over, I believe it's Texas.
All right, my 4-5 matchup is Miami versus Georgia. Oof. I've got Georgia.
Yeah, I've got Oregon over Utah in the 4-5 game. 5 seed Oregon beats Utah. Sets up a third matchup between Ohio State and Oregon, by the way.
Oof. Just like me on college football 25.
Yeah,
I hate playing Oregon.
it's tough.
I got Louisville. No, it's tough. I'm gonna go with I got Georgia going through, and then I got Miami going through, and then so it'll be Ohio State versus Texas, Georgia versus Miami.
For the semis.
Yeah,
Nice.
So I have Ohio State, Georgia. I have Notre Dame versus Alabama. I think Alabama upsets Texas because I think Alabama will be on a roll, like a roll. No, I take that back. Take that back. I have Texas win it, and then I'm just gonna say I have Texas playing Ohio State in the national championship.
So on the other side of the bracket, I've got Ole Miss beating Notre Dame, then setting up a date with Georgia. Georgia wins that game, gets to a semifinal, and then Texas beats Penn State, and then Texas beats Florida State to get to the other semifinal. So I have Georgia, Texas on one side, Ohio State, Oregon on the other side, battle of the Big Ten and the SEC for the national championship.
Battle
Give me
of
Ohio State and Georgia.
Man, you got 3 team. Both games each team played each other 3 times. That's insane. That's awesome.
Unfortunately,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
So I got Ohio State versus Texas. Quinn Ewers versus his teacher. Absolute banger of a game.
His
Like,
elementary teacher.
just everything we hoped for and that we didn't get with Joe Burrow. When he was at LSU, we do get though with Ohio State versus Texas. But at the end of the day, Ryan Day, the master, wins. We'll have, if we play Ewers, we'll have the whole scouting book on him. Like we'll know where he throws, how he we'll cook him. I know that for sure. And then the other game is Georgia Miami. This one is a classic. I'm saying this one's instant classic. Everyone's loving it. I feel like Miami goes up big, and then there's some little rigging by the refs, and then I feel like Georgia gets through, but we're all like, that was a Mickey Mouse.
Hey.
And respect the crystal ball, but Kirby is we're all hating on Kirby, and then they're going to Atlanta at home with the nation hating Georgia, but Ohio State is going with a chance for redemption in the Natty.
Big 12 refs. That Georgia Miami screams Big 12 refs all the way.
Rigging hard. I'm telling you, Miami and Cam Ward are firing early, and then they go up 20-0, 17-0, and then Georgia gets maybe a lucky play before half. They get the kickoff, then a bad call, and then Georgia's up 20-17 in the fourth.
Same refs from the 2019 Fiesta Bowl. Ohio State Clemson.
There's a targeting call. Jason is ejected.
I feel like there will be between Miami and Georgia, there could be a lot of speed and fights. I mean, Georgia knows all about speed right now.
That's unbelievable.
Let's talk about it. Now we got our national champion. Let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I feel like every other week there's somebody getting arrested. And Dan made a perfect quote on our Twitter, basically stating if this was Urban Meyer, they would have Urban Meyer suspended and fans would be starting up a rally because ESPN and everybody would be calling for Urban's head.
Literally,
that is accurate.
True. I hate to be the guy that complains about this. I'm not complaining. I just want to point out the hypocrisies.
You're being observant.
Yes, that's all. I'm just observing. I'm not saying I'm not people take it the wrong way. Oh, you're salty, or I'm not bitter. I'm just simply pointing out this is something that we should be kind of looking at.
He's not big game boomer who's just bitter about Ohio State. Jesus.
Tony Alford got moved up 6 slots.
No, wasn't Tony Alford 20th overall in his 2023 rankings, and then he ended up being number 1?
He went from 6th, I think, to 1, and I'm I literally asked him what changed? What changed other than the uniform? It was the uniform. We just admit it was the uniform.
He did it for clicks because he knew Ohio State fans would. Dude, he hates. I don't think he actually hates Ohio State. I think he just hates Ohio State fans, and he knows how to get clicks.
No, he needs that. He gets paid, I'm pretty sure, from Twitter. He needs that. He needs that revenue.
That's what the national media does. Ohio State fans will click no matter if it's good news or bad news. They are giving you traffic regardless.
Just like Paul Feinbaum, man.
He put OU as the top band in Ohio.
Hey, that marching 110 is amazing though, but
Are
they're
they?
not. Yeah, but they're not Ohio State amazing. And I really hope next season Ohio State brings the marching 10 to the Horseshoe for that game.
I want
That'd be cool.
I have a quick before we do the national championship. I have a quick pitch for Netflix. One, Netflix is coming out with the Connor Stallions documentary, and they did say, by the way, they did say to us, we will be pleased. Like at our Twitter account, they did say we will be pleased with what we find out in the documentary. I did tweet like I was like, oh, I don't know about this documentary. It like seems rushed, and the guy's like, no, you'll like what you find out. So we'll see. I'm excited about it. But like if you ever watched this is what I want to get at. If you ever watched the Dallas Cowboys Netflix documentary, one electric, but they need to do one like that, like they did for the Dallas Cowboys documentary for the band here. It would be
They
electric.
did one on for Amazon.
Yeah, they need to do a Netflix version, and like that's my pitch.
Yeah, Amazon did one and it's really good. It's from like 2018 season, I believe. It's really good.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
all have Ohio State winning the national championship.
I actually have Michigan like jumping in the ring. No, I got I got the Buckeyes.
I got the Buckeyes over Texas.
And they go to Atlanta and slay Georgia, and like CJ Stroud will somehow be on the sideline too. Or like he'll be in attendance and it'll be great.
CJ Shelby might be ready to make a little Super Bowl run there with Houston.
Hey, Joe Shady in Cincinnati might have something to say about that.
What a game that would be for you.
I wouldn't be like I love the Bengals, but I don't think I would be as mad if the Texans beat Cincinnati in the playoffs. I wouldn't
Just because it's Stroud.
and Stroud and my wife keeps asking me every day what's the update on her Cade Stover jersey. So
I got my Bo Nix and I got my Caleb Downs. I wore it. It's great.
Nice.
Caleb Downs.
And I got a Sergei Bobrovsky Stanley Cup patch.
I dare
I
you.
miss Bob.
I dare you wear that to the first Blue Jackets game.
I would. Why wouldn't I? He's the best goalie in franchise history.
But a lot of people hate him. Like they do.
What?
Because he didn't
You gotta get
sign.
over
Like the people I work with that love the Blue Jackets, they don't like Bob because he didn't sign with the Blue Jackets.
Because they didn't offer him a good deal. They're cheap.
Exactly.
Like, what do you pay more?
Hey, I definitely want to when Ellie Deli Cruz leaves the Reds and goes to the Yankees. I'm going to create the Spider-Man meme with the Blue Jackets logo and the Reds logo and say we're the same franchise.
No, I'm like I count that win for Bob as like half a Stanley Cup for me. Like that was
Yeah.
I was happy for Bob. I'm like because I followed that guy since like he's with the Blue Jackets. I can't believe people don't like him.
I mean,
So,
I'm not a big Jackets fan, so I always get on Jackets fan. I mean, I'm not a big hockey fan, so I kind of get on Jackets fans. But anyways, are we gonna hear? We got 5 minutes. It looks like. Are we gonna hear anything about these possible postseason ban for for Michigan anytime this week? I thought we were supposed to.
I feel like they're gonna wait for this documentary to come out. I feel like we're gonna find out closer to like almost probably week 1 or 2 of the season. I feel like they're waiting to drop that bomb.
I think there's
But
more
then
to it.
but then we'll find out, and it'll be like 3 years before anything actually happens. That's the other thing. It'll be like, okay, postseason ban or whatever.
Like my brother said, and I think I said it to Dan. Why punish the kids now that are and everybody that is not there? Because Harbaugh basically said, "Deuces, I'm out, and I'm taking half my staff and all these players into the draft." Like, why are we punishing the team now? Just vacate the wins and call it a day. That's where I'm at with it.
People need to vacate. I just don't understand. Like with all the precedent, it's just like when if you get a competitive advantage, like you cheated, like it's vacate. It's Ohio State like had tattoos and that provide no competitive advantage. We had to vacate, and I know that there's more complexities than just that, but like it. I don't understand how they think like they're gonna get away scot free. Like Louisville basketball, they what was it, just like NIL, not NIL, like money stuff or
Taking
whatever.
money from Adidas.
Yeah, whatever. That is less than what they did. I feel like
Didn't Sean Miller lose his job at Arizona for basically the same stuff?
yeah, for like sneaker money or something. Like
Yeah.
so, yeah, I feel like the hammer's coming. Hammer's coming.
It's gonna come like week 6, kind of like when Harbaugh got suspended.
Like I'm in no
After they
rush.
lose to Texas.
Honestly, I'm in no rush for the hammer to come down. The hammer can come down in 2 years for all I care. It'll cause them more pain and like just stress thinking that the hammer's coming. And then when it does come, the wins are still going to get voided. So like, take your time. You can do this in 5 years. Make my day in like 5 years with this. And I have nothing but time, Michigan fans.
It'll be on. Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! I'm ready. I'm ready for football. And I'm ready for the hammer to drop on Michigan because they need a reality check, and it's time for the Buckeyes to beat them this year. So
Yeah, they'll get it.
Yeah. I will be there. So here's to hoping.
Alex Orji might not even be the starting quarterback. It's
Jack
Chris Olave's roommate.
Jack Tuttle.
Or not roommate, quarterback.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Yeah, we'll see what else Sharon does.
We'll see. We'll see. That's all I got. Blake, once again, check out Blake's article on the Silver Bulletin. Blake did a great job. Thank you so much for being on, Blake. And as always, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Bunch of Nuts podcast. And go Bucks.